Very good evening, everyone. So, we were looking into different aspects of emotional abuse that an individual can go through. And at the same time, we were also focusing on solutions or what can the survivor do in order to help themselves from just not being a victim, a transformation from the victim state to the survivor state. So, most of the participants in our group can be mental health professionals, they can be students, they can be people whom we meet on a day to day basis also. For anyone, this would be helpful because everywhere we find people who are going through a silent abuse. Any kind of form of domestic physical hurt is obviously visible, but there's something called as emotional abuse that many people do not acknowledge and they don't recognize, and we're trying to spread awareness over this kind of an abuse that can happen in a marriage. It can happen to both women as well as it can happen to both to men as well. Sometimes people go through a tougher time when the immediate family, which is supposed to be the support system, does not acknowledge the fact of emotional abuse because they have no understanding about what emotional abuse is. Maybe they also went through it, but they wouldn't have considered that as much important because there is something called as emotions, which needs to be respected. The other person needs to respect the other person's emotion. Is something which was not taught to us for a long time, especially when it comes to women. Maybe when it comes to a male, they advise the female to like look into what the need is, just like you need to like oblige to what your spouse, your husband wants or something like that. But I think in very few cases this happens for a woman. People are not asking the man to really provide for the wife or like to question him about like respect the emotion of the partner. Even in the own house of that particular female who's going through this, maybe they don't acknowledge it, they don't address it, because to them they are not finding it as a big problem. Even if they are educated, even in educated families, they are not finding it as a big problem because they are not having awareness that this is something wrong. And a little bit of knowledge into law, the legalities, clearly defines that against any kind form of violence against, especially a female, when it is protection of women against domestic violence, emotional abuse also comes under it. Emotional abuse of any form comes under it. Physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, it also comes under domestic violence. So that also we need to understand and empower people, spread awareness about it so that people can safeguard their mental health and be mutually supportive of each other in as we live in a community in the society we are in. So let us get into the topic of today, gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of emotional abuse where the abuser manipulates you into doubting your reality. So, when someone is going through a kind of gaslighting, generally, what is this kind of an gaslighting abuse which someone can go through? So, people do certain things dishonestly. Some people can do, especially here because we are talking about a relationship between partners. That has been our theme throughout. So when it is between partners, it is very important to be honest to each other. Honesty is very important in a relationship, and to be more transparent, and that makes leading a family life more easy. And when people indulge in any form of this kind of manipulative tactics like gaslighting, where the one partner is dishonest, and because of the dishonesty, there is a problem in communicating with the other partner or saying what they did. Maybe, let us just assume, as an example, that the husband had misused the wife's money without her knowledge. So, but the wife here raises a question over the finances. Um, when she every time she raises a question over the finance, then the man is not able to take up. In this case, it's a man, just as an example. The man is not able to take it, he cannot digest it, and he doesn't like to be questioned. So he can use different tactics, like using take diversion, not talking about the topic, diverting it into something else. Actually, the conversation will be about the finances, but then pulling in other people into that argument. It could be someone in the wife's family or someone in the husband's family, some kind of incident which took place many days back, bringing that in this conversation, which is not at all necessary. And now, what happens is it just started as a conversation about one topic, but now it has taken a diversion without the knowledge of the person who raised a query about very genuine query is now feeling confused, and they are questioning their own memory. What did I talk? Why did we get into this topic? When they're sitting alone after all that drama and chaos is over, when that individual sits quietly and is like trying to introspect what happened and what went wrong, they are not able to actually understand what happened, how did all this begin, and now it ended up somewhere else, and I'm confused. What do I need? Did I hurt the other person? Because what happens is, when one person tries to use these kind of manipulative techniques, the other partner who raised a query is also talking to them. See, like how the abuser can have a kind of baggage or kind of tools to express when they are feeling discomfort. The same can the other person can also have. They have not manipulated, they're just raising a question, but they also have a pattern or a baggage which they carry, and they have a pattern of exhibiting their discomfort, like how the abuser also has. So they can also indulge in arguments which can be aggressive, or there can be someone who breaks down and get into crying spells, which can either irritate the other person, or it can be empowering to the other person. Some people, especially who have narcissistic qualities, we are not trying to say that everybody who indulges in gaslighting has narcissistic traits, but if the abuser has like kind of narcissistic he does narcissistic abuse, he has a pattern of it, and he likes to see that when you cry it makes me feel empowered. That kind of a thought or a feeling people can have. So when it is that, then you're somewhere the particular survivor or we don't know unless they come into the kind of self-help stage, they are a victim. If they don't have awareness about what they're going through, they're still a victim. So maybe they are reacting to whatever this person is saying, instead of realizing the fact that there is a take diversion and they're not talking about what they need to be talking. And this person also has let out some words in anger, and this conversation between two people has become a family quarrel now. And finally there are two families fighting. Just a second. Yes. So it can also like become bigger depending on the seriousness of or the problem or the consequence of whatever argument which happened between two people. And sometimes, many a times, what happens is we don't like no in the same issue. If you take no, sometimes there can be people whom you trusted and you spoke to can also tell you it's okay, it's only money, and he's only your spouse, your husband, your money, it's your family's thing. No, why do you have to like get into a quarrel into it? He's also our family, a member of our family. Don't question him. So let it go. No, we don't have to get so much aggressive over this communication. It's okay. And somewhere the person, the victim feels that maybe I did something wrong. It is supposed to be my family money. Maybe I overreacted. I shouldn't have done it. After all, it's my husband, so I shouldn't have done this. And maybe they get into that guilt mode, and sometimes the victim might go and ask for an apology. After this gaslighting has happened, maybe the other person is not eating properly. I mean, the abuser, whoever did this to the other person, is not eating at home, is going to a separate room to sleep, and like putting up a show like a victim putting up a show like a victim can make the other person feel insecure. Did I quarrel over the money and hurt him to an extent that he wants to move away from me? No, I don't want this to happen to me. I don't want such a kind of a thing to happen to me. I want to be in his good books to run my family successfully, answerable to a lot of people. My mother will question me, my in-laws will question me, and many people, my well-wishers, have advised me to not do this. So like, and my children, my if at all there are children in the marriage, I need to preserve this marriage for the sake of my children. So if I'm losing out on my husband, then it becomes my life becomes a question mark kind of a feeling they might get, and that makes them apologize to the person, and maybe like the other person gets back into that normal form, because 24 bar 7 they're not gaslighting. There are days when they can be nice to the victim or the survivor, the partner, and there are days when they can do this behind the back of the person. The person might not also be realizing that they're doing this. And a covert type of emotional abuse, so it's hidden. So here in this case also, I took your money, and I have no guilt over it. I'm entitled to it. You cannot question me. If you question me, I will put you into trouble. I will make other people question you. So that kind of a control I have. So the person who has a personality disorder, a person who shows traits of a personality disorder, can have this kind of an uh, no need, a constant need to exert power over people, exert power. And how do they exert that power? Directly, they are not able to exert power. Suppose I that individual can be powerful if they are in a powerful position where people come like they need to oblige to this person if they want some work to get done. So people can be into politics or something, then maybe they feel good about it. Maybe some of them feel good about it. We're not generalizing here, but here in this case, people with generally with personality disorders are fragile personalities. The confidence is not like up to the mark. They are not able to exert power over people, so they need some fake image, they need some false image to exert that power, and they want to make you believe that they are powerful and they have control over you. So thereby, that they can do this in a romantic relationship, girlfriend boyfriend, it can happen. Similarly, it can help in close friend circle. It can also happen with the close family members, and even co-workers will definitely know. You cannot hide such patterns for a very long time. It will anyway come out. The other person will come to know about it. So, in these cases, some people might not understand what it is, because certain things which they exhibit with the partner are covered. No, very much out of secrecy they do it. It's hidden. The intentions are hidden, and so it becomes a form of abuse, and only people who are very close to them can know what they're doing. Maybe other people, to the other people in the society, to the neighbor or someone next street, or even in the association in a gated community, or if even in the religious center, there can be someone of importance, and everybody to like they can be people pleasers who can be in the good books of other people. Oh, that man, yeah, he's a very dignified person. He's a really like very decent man. Similarly, for a woman, no? Every Tuesday she'll come to the temple. No, on every auspicious day she does what she needs to be doing. She's a very nice woman. No, she does a lot to the beggars and all that. No, this kind of an image people can have. People who are looking at them from a distance may feel so. So often the pattern here is misleading the target. So here it is, the target is the partner. So misleading the partner by giving some wrong information. In the same scenario which we discussed, they can give some wrong information that um, all of a sudden, for an emergency, I had to use that money because an emergency arose in my family. I did not have the time to communicate to you. I'm sorry. This could be, that's a fake sorry. And when someone trusts the spouse, they just don't dig into it. And later on, somehow they will come to know. It's later on, somehow they will come to know that that is not the truth through someone else. So at that time, when they are being questioned, they will again raise like questions like, "Don't you trust me? Who asked you to talk to that person? So much I told you to not talk to them. Don't have trust on me. On your own husband, if you cannot have trust, then on whom will you have trust? You've never had trust on me from the beginning of the relationship." This is a kind of misleading the target, because I want to safeguard myself, because I know very well what I did. Creating a false narrative and making them question their judgments and reality. So here, creating a new story again, from one story to another story. That person needed it immediately, so I could not tell you, but you cannot make an issue out of it. My family is your family, so you cannot question me over it. But actually, it is not spent on that family also. This person has used it for something, for his own use. Okay, or the person is keeping it safely but doesn't want the spouse to know, because I have control over you, because I have control over your finance. I need control over your finance. It can be that way also. Ultimately, the survivor or the victim feels unsure about their perceptions, which like the individual starts questioning their own understanding, whether I am perceiving it wrong, because the person is nice to you sometimes, the person is confusing you at sometimes. As I told you, the person is not 24 by 7 gaslighting you, gaslighting that individual. There are days when the same person can be very nice. They can take the partner and the family on a picnic, or when it's a common occasion, they can be very kind to people, to the people in the family, the wife's relatives or the husband's relatives. And in the social circle, in a gathering, they can be very nice, they can be very sweet. So this is a very confusing behavior where the survivor or the victim is always kept confused. And sometimes some people can go to the extreme of questioning the partner's own sanity. When someone is going through this, there are possibilities that the person going through this can also go through anxiety and depression. The partner who's suffering with this kind of a manipulation, gaslighting, can suffer for a long time, for a long period of time, 5 years of marriage. They suffered it without their own, for them to understand that this is a problem which the other person has. It's not a problem with me itself. It takes some time, it takes a period of time. And many of the people here are not addressing what the issue is. They're always more interested to patch up the couple. So that is one thing. And then wonders of their, yeah, romantic relationship, yeah, this I told you about. So people who gaslight, generally majority can be people who have mental health disorders. They can have personality disorders. A few may not have a personality disorder, but it is a kind of defense mechanism that that individual uses to escape from a problem. So, as I explained to you, gaslighting behaviors are lying to the partner. Some can be habitual and pathological liars. There can be a family pattern of pathological, genetically, doing that. They have a history of sometimes, like I myself recently, I saw a family where a similar pattern of behaviors are being exhibited among all the siblings, um, by all the siblings, while dealing with a particular couple. While dealing with a particular couple in the family of the guy on whom the woman had accusations, had a similar history where they've been pathological, I mean, where they've been liars. They've been lying to the spouse, and also taking away jewelry. They don't like to be called as, uh, they don't want the word stealing the jewelry. But what they actually do is, in the family, they feel that the man has entitlement over the woman's jewels. So without the woman's consent, when she's gone to bath, she just kept her jewels outside. This person takes it and he just walks away. And later on, after she searches for a few days, then she comes and asks for it. Then maybe after that, he reveals that I had to pledge it for an emergency. So with whose consent did you take it? No. And so such things have been happening, and if they question them of what their behaviors, the behaviors they've been exhibiting, they verbally abuse by using bad language or character assassinating the woman. So this pattern existed in the family, and recordically it is shown that um, most educated women who get into this family had registered a complaint on the spouse for the same. It's not our own, like, it's not just a story which, or a narrative which was given to us by that particular woman, but there's been a history, recordical history, where there have been legal issues. The family has been dealing with legal issues. We don't know where this pattern came from, a generation back, from whom they learned it, or whether it is genetic, whether the parent was like that, we don't know. And how was the grooming? What were the pedagogical approaches? What kind of education system they had? What were the moral values they were taught? We don't know. So deliberately some people can lie, though the other party can have all the records of them doing that particular wrong. No, they taken away my jewel and they pledged it in this particular jewelry shop, and without my consent, they've done this. So nowadays, when I just went through some notes, I found that if without the knowledge of the wife, if the husband takes entitlement over her finance or jewelry, if the wife complains or raises a case against the husband, he can be put behind bars for at least 3 months, and he needs to pay a penalty or compensation to the wife. This is what I read. So many women, I don't think, maybe this generation they do. A generation ahead wouldn't have known about this, and maybe they didn't come forward to talk about it. But nowadays, people are coming out to talk about it. Then, when we dig into the history, we come to know that they are pathological liars. As a family, you've been doing it for many years. So, this is what the younger generation has watched, and they're imbibing. So, even if the proof is given, still they will know that whatever they're saying is the truth, but there'll be no response sometimes. So the liar knows that no response is also a response. So let me choose no response. Conscious decision. They may say something like, you're making up things in spite of providing proofs of whatever is needed. That never happened. You're crazy. It's nothing. It happens in many families. You're making a big issue out of it. It's all, everything is your own imagination. It's not the fact. It's your imagination. Dishonestly and misrepresentation are the cornerstones. Yes, they know how to talk very convincingly. People can either catch hold of the survivor's neck or catch hold on to the feet when they know that the other partner is empowered enough to desert them. If they're sensing that they will desert them and go away, they wouldn't mind holding on to their feet because they're more worried about the social image. And they also want that kind of, what do you call it? They are getting something from the relationship, some pleasure they're getting out of holding on this particular survivor in that relationship. They're satisfying their egos by either crying or being sad, being confused, and showing off the vulnerability makes them feel happy, which is unhealthy, which is a disease. No mentally healthy person will think this way. So, over a extended period, it's obvious that people can like really question their own thoughts, perceptions, reality, memory. All this happens. So, over when it is a long period in this relationship, the person generally will not survive until they get into the survivor mode. The person will have less confidence. The victim will have less confidence, self-esteem, and they will lose their emotional stability. No, there'll be ups and lows and moods because they are investing on the wrong place. I expect love from you, so I'm giving you a lot of love so that I get it back. They will never get it back because the person is suffering from a disorder. So, investing in the wrong place and expecting for output can never fulfill it. leading to yeah, and a common result of the dependency on the perpetrator. Perpetrator is the abuser. Abuser is the perpetrator. Somewhere over the period of time, the survivor would have been dependable on this person, maybe even in terms of finance also possible. Terms of financially, I cannot survive outside when I walk outside. And such people might be very conscious that they don't send the partner to work, or they, because they know what they are, they know who they are, they want to keep the other person in control. So that dependency is the weakness, biggest weakness. Anyway, this person will come, has to get back to me for their survival. So they have no other way to escape because they are dependent on me. I was talking to you about pathological liars. I want you to also understand about unintentional liars and gaslighting. People who are not having a personality disorder, or any, they are not exhibiting any kind of narcissistic traits, they are not a narcissistic abuser, but still they can be unintentional liars. Who are these people who are being these kind of unintentional liars? People who are not able to cope up with the shortcoming. Maybe they can be financially weak, or they can have a problem with some sensitive issue. It can be a male who has impotency, it can be a female who has fertility issues. So these people, whoever has it, they did not learn that skill to cope up with the challenges. They did not have a problem solving strategy. So I'm not able to cope with it. So I have to tell a lie to escape from this. I have to manipulate the other person in order to escape from this. To cover up for the lag in support system. Maybe that in the case of that male can also, who has used the money of the wife, maybe used it only for the family expenses. Possible, used it for the family expense, but is feeling shy to convey that to the wife because it is very difficult for that particular male to accept that fact that I had a difficulty, financial difficulty. I did not have money. It's a very shameful thing for that person. That individual has learned that if I say that I do not have money, so I used your money, is something that is shameful, and I should not ask money from my wife. So I did not ask her consent before using it because I felt shy. So I took it without her consent. So I don't want her to know. Before she comes to know, maybe I will refill it also, can be an intention. Okay. So I for now I will cover up. So when will they tell a lie is when they are being questioned only, it will come to know what they, how they are behaving. So I had a lag, which is very shameful to me. So to cover up for that, I used the defense mechanism to tell lies and being dishonest with you. Self defense. No, I have to protect myself. And getting into the hyper vigilant mode. When this unintentional liar comes to know a little bit, comes to know a little bit that somewhere the partner is sensing that whatever I did, she's coming to know, or he is coming to know whatever I did, then I have to safeguard myself. I need to defend myself because it will become too shameful for me if that person finds out and corners me. I cannot handle it. So something I should do, some manipulation I should do in order to help myself. Otherwise, I cannot face the situation. That is the hypervigilant mode. They'll be very active. The mind will be very active. When they come to know, or they sense a little bit that the spouse has come to know about what I've lied or what I've cheated on, then they will get into the hypervigilant mode. Overhearing conversations when it is made on a phone. What is she talking to her mother? What is she conveying to her sister? Did she already find out? Does she have proof about it? How do I escape? Kind of like being a very alert mode. When they are in the hypervigilant mode, it will be very obvious. They'll be more anxious. These unintentional liars will be more anxious. Intentional liars, personality disorder people will be very they'll put up that confident face. That's the difference. When it's intentional, I want power, I did it, I'm entitled towards it, and I am in charge of you. So I know what I'm doing. I did it purposefully. In the intentional, I did it purposefully. In unintentional, I did not know a way, but I did it. But still, it's wrong. Still, it's wrong. But we're just trying to look at the difference between, because this will help us understand how we work with these pathological intentional liars and how we can help unintentional liars. uh, to protect themselves, the first need for unintentional liars, the need for telling a lie is to protect themselves, to protect, safeguard themselves, to protect their dignity, which they consider as their family dignity, or whatever it is. Non-apologetic, I don't want to apologize to her. No, then it will be proven that I made a mistake. Somehow I want to escape. People with low confidence and low self esteem can generally indulge in this kind of a behavior. And the person is scared. Why did the person tell a lie here? Is the person is scared. The person is fearing something. The person doesn't want to experience shame. The person also doesn't want to experience abandonment, or the person does not want the wife or the husband to think low about them. So here I have two dialogues. So how in this case of an unintentional liar, the partner can be helped, is the survivor can be helped, is they also would have gone through whether it is intentional or unintentional. A survivor goes through a emotional turmoil. But here are two mind voices of the abuser, the person who is doing the gaslighting. And you are going to tell me which should generally be the mind voice of the person. We'll just read through it. My wife or husband is an understanding person. We share a good friendship in this relationship. She or he knows my shortcomings. I know her blind spots. We will support each other in times of need. I have no shame in communicating my downfalls to my partner. Both of us have our imperfections. Is a kind of state of mind that a person can have. The second state of mind can be, she will mock me. He or she will mock me. She or he will speak ill about me and my family. If she or he comes to know about my difficulties, best way to safeguard myself in her presence. If she questions me, let me use take diversion. So this is a kind of fright or flight response. I'm frightened because she's going to question me. I need to escape from the situation, so let me use manipulative tactics. So, which kind of a mindset should the spouse have, whether it's a male or a female, they've done something happened to them, they had a downfall. So, which is the, please type in your chat box, which is the right kind of mind voice, healthy mind voice a person can have. Voice A or voice B. You can type either A or B in the chat box. Yeah, voice A. Exactly. My next question to you is, if you feel that, exactly, yeah, if you feel that um, there can be done some work with the survivor, a survivor of gaslighting is your client, and you have a chance to work with that survivor. You have a chance to work with a survivor of gaslighting. Is it possible for that individual to convert voice B of the spouse, whether it is a female or a male? Is there a possibility for them, for that individual, to convert voice B of the spouse to voice A? If there is a possibility, please put a thumbs up. Is there a possibility for the survivor of someone who caused gaslighting to them, if they are able to do some self work and work on it, is there a possibility for them to shift the mind voice of their spouse from voice B to voice A? If it is possible, if you think it is possible in the case of an unintentional liar, please put a thumbs up. So nobody thinks there's a possibility. So I think there is a possibility, because sometimes without our knowledge, um, some mistakes, yes, we could have done. Maybe prior to whatever incident happened, prior to that, whatever in the financial dealings, whatever the spouse did, maybe that person who gaslighted could have had a history of the husband or the wife mocking them for finances in front of the family, in front of their family, their maternal family, their paternal family. They spoke ill about, no, this man doesn't have money, this man is fit for nothing. Or similarly, it can happen for the female also. They can talk ill about that particular woman. She's fit for nothing. She's useless. No, maybe the person heard it. The person knows how you will react. Maybe the person doesn't accept any downfalls. No. So if that particular gaslighter felt that the spouse will mock him or her because of the past history in the relationship, whatever the other person did, not trying to understand the difficulty of the other person, not being empathetic or understanding, putting the other person to shame, and being more critical or being very strict. So when the person is like this and the spouse gets an understanding about the partner is going to do all this to me, then sometimes maybe we are only pushing them to the stealthy mode. This last class, I explained this with an example. There is a very strict father. There are strict elder brothers, and this boy, the mother is very a nice, kind person and understanding, and who tries to uh, be nice to the boy. But because of this particular pattern, which the mother suddenly passes away. This boy at a very young age during teenage did not have his mother, so the parenting figures were father and elder brothers who are very strict. So he has his own desires at that particular age. Maybe he wants to go for a movie, maybe he wants to go have spend some time with friends, he wants to go like take the cycle out for a round, he wants to go to the ground to play. But there are so many rules and restrictions where the person is stopped. The person is but the person is still not able to stop the person's desires. I want it. My family will stop me if they come to know. Let me tell them lies. So I will tell them I have special class. I might tell them that today there's something very important to study, so I'm going to this person's house to study. But they'll be going for a movie. So this pattern wouldn't have started immediately. So if at all, because we are studying behavior here. Psychology is the study of behavior. It's a science of behavior. So why this pattern came? So there is a possibility if we are able to empower the survivor, the spouse of this particular gaslighter, when it's an unintentional thing where the pattern can be changed, then somewhere it's possible for us to uplift that particular woman or that particular man, so that voice B can change to voice A. They're comfortable to come and tell you, if you're not being strict, if you're not being judgmental, then there is an opportunity for them to come and tell you that this happened, because they know you'll not mock, you'll be understanding, you'll try to be nicer, you'll be kinder, you'll not mock at them, you'll not criticize, you'll not pass some double meaning jokes while having normal conversations, just teasing the other person, putting them down in front of children. Your father is fit for nothing. Look at the loss he made. Always you have the habit of putting me and my family to shame in front of others. These kind of statements. Or comparison. Look at that man. Or look at that woman, how responsible she is. Look at that woman, how much responsibility she takes. But see, you always waste money. You know, you don't know to be protective of finances. You know nothing. Such statements will generally put people into voice B, thereby getting into the fright or flight response. There are many more things that we can actually discuss when it comes to intentionally doing it, and some people might not it will not work. Generally, people who have personality disorder will not be willing to open up or come forward to work on themselves. Generally, people who are living with them, who want to continue to live with them, might receive psycho education about what the illness is to, and then it is up to them to decide whether they are going to continue with the relationship or not. But like most of us, whether it is a psychiatrist or a social worker or a psychologist or even lawyers, generally try to patch up a couple to see, and we make some extra effort to see what changes can be done in the pattern using different techniques, just to give it a try if something can actually work. And if it's actually not working, even when it's an intentional gaslighting which somebody is doing, we're trying to see how to help. But at the last stage, when we feel that it doesn't work, not we, they take a decision that it doesn't work. Whether it's the wife or the husband or both together take a decision that it doesn't work, then we leave it up to them. And because only the person who's going through it knows the intensity of pain. So it's up to them to decide to whether continue in this relationship or not. but as much as possible, we try to figure out patterns. We People can always unlearn old patterns which are not healthy. It's very important for us to give awareness that the pattern which they're using is not helping them, it's causing more destruction. So when it is not helping, it's okay, we can unlearn it. We can unlearn it, and we can relearn a new pattern. Patterns can always be learned. We are social beings. At every stage of life, we've changed a lot in our lives by looking at people around us, and the kind of exposure we get, the kind of people we communicate much with. We learn a lot of life lessons, so that some people are capable of processing it, imbibing it, who are in the adult mode can usually understand and they take it further. So which is my success mantra, what is my success formula, what should I change in myself in order to reach where I want to reach. So if this person really wants, if both are like what I explained in the last session also, when both partners are interested to better the quality of the relationships and take the relationship forward, then I think it's okay to try different things where the pattern can be unlearned and relearned. If you have anything to share, talk from your own experiences working with people, or anything that could have happened in your neighborhood, or some takeaway that you got from the session that we had today, please go ahead to speak. Feel free to share. Anyone can speak. What is your takeaway from whatever we discussed?
Thank you, Swati Priya, for your session. It's very informational. Actually, when I am dealing with the case, and I got an insight from what you told, that I thought the partner is gaslighting, but when you told, I got the thing that the spouse is judgmental, and so he is pushed to gaslight, and it is not intentional, but it is unintentional. So, as you said, we will make the spouse unlearn the old pattern and relearn the new pattern where she's not judgmental and the spouse is not becoming trying to gaslight and solve that problem.
Generally, in
Thank
couple therapy, even when both are not participating, but both are interested to like improve the quality, when there is something that change that we can bring in one person, some empowerment we can give to one person can will definitely reflect on the other, because the response will change or the reactions will change.
Yeah,
Thank
yes,
you,
yes.
ma'am. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Can I hear from someone else? All right. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. Yes, madam.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a really wonderful session. But in my career of counseling, I've seen people who are gaslighting their partner. They never accept so easily that it is the thing is like this, and that's why I'm doing this. They don't have the awareness as well,
Yes,
and they think it is quite natural for a husband or wife to do this because our relationship is like that, so I'm doing this. They never accept. Even your suggestion is really very valid, but it's very difficult to make them understand
exactly.
that how to go about it, ma'am, when
So,
they're
yeah,
so
yeah. For today, what we have actually seen is we've seen certain ways. Like as I used to like explain, it's a broader spectrum. So people can be narcissistic abusers. Just an example, can be a narcissistic abusers. They can show traits of it, but the intensity differs. The
yes.
intensity of how much of an abuse that the person is causing, certain cases we really cannot help. So that
Yes.
somewhere when it is whatever suggestion I was giving now is for a simpler kind of an abuse, but it
Okay.
can go from mild to severe. So in medium cases, it will be very challenging to work. And in some cases, when it is severe, then I think we will be providing the partner the kind of legal education to safeguard themselves and protect themselves so that they can break this relationship. Because when it is a very severe form of narcissistic abuse, sometimes it's
Mm.
very difficult to even get a divorce. They won't easily let the other person go by taking a divorce also. There also, there will be a lot of control.
Yes, ma'am.
So let us look at it in the next session about how it can happen the other way.
Yes,
A
yes,
little
I'll be
tougher
waiting for it.
cases.
Yeah, because one of my client is facing it very severely. Even she has to take the permission of her husband even to move from kitchen to her bedroom.
Possible.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Please stay connected in the group. If you have any queries or you have any feedbacks, please let me know. We'll meet again next Wednesday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful year ahead. Happy 2026 to all. Thank you.
Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year.